drink problematically are in denial about what alcohol is actually doing to their lives. And because of that, it becomes really, really hard to quit, especially if you don't experience that many negative consequences and your drinking and your life appear to be, relatively normal or fine. What will usually shock somebody out of denial is something like my experience, where I had suicidal thoughts, that I was so afraid that continuing to drink stopped being an option for me. But what if you don't have something like that? What if your drinking makes you miserable, but not that miserable? And you go through life just fine, you do everything you have to do, you don't drink every day, nothing bad has happened to you. What do you do then? How do you stop drinking? How do you accept that your life would be better if you didn't drink ever again? So in today's video, I'm talking to a really good friend of mine named Blair, who was a binge drinker. So she didn't drink every day, and eventually she decided to stop drinking back in 2018, and she's going to explain, how do you stop drinking when you don't technically have to? When you don't have a health reason or your life hasn't been destroyed, how do you make that decision to quit? So let's get to the conversation. So I was excited to have you on because even though a lot of people can resonate with my story, there's one part that they can't, and that's that I felt like I had to stop drinking. Like, it was kind of a life or death thing. Like, I lost the choice or the ability to convince myself that I could delay it or I wasn't that bad. Like, it was clearly bad. And I feel for those people because that's a really hard position to be in. And I know that you were not a daily drinker, and you quit in a different way. You didn't feel like you were going to die if you didn't stop drinking. So that's really why I wanted you to come on here and talk to those, I guess they're viewers on YouTube. I keep saying calling it an episode, and then sometimes I'll catch it and I'll go back and
what are they called? I don't know what they're called.
It's like a video now, I guess.
Oh, a video.
Yeah, so I keep calling it an episode sometimes, and then it's like, this isn't an episode, this is a video. So Thank you for coming, is my point.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and I guess what was going through your head at any part, wherever you want to start. But I'm curious, what was going through your head from maybe when you noticed that something was kind of not right to where you decided that you weren't going to drink again?
I guess I had a lot of negative consequences throughout the whole time that I drank since I was 17-ish, 16, 17. But there was never really a time where I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't drink at all. It wasn't ever, that wasn't even an option. It never ran through my head that was, I knew that was the thing that was causing all of these negative things, but to stop drinking wasn't going to happen. That, I have to drink. We all drink. That's what we do. There's what am I going to do for fun? What am I going to do on the weekends? What are my friends are going to think? That's what we do. That's who we are. So negative consequences as in ER visits. I'd fall a lot. I had a DWI and spent time in jail. Just being obnoxious, and just not who I really am. I suppose that's a negative consequence. Right. But just saying things that you regret and no care for really anybody, even myself, just kind of whatever. And so towards the end, and like you said, I wasn't a daily drinker. It was more, it was definitely binge drinking every time. Of course, there were times here and there where I'd have one or two drinks or something like that, but that was very rare. There was even I wouldn't go out to dinner and have a drink because then I knew that I would want another drink and more at home and whatever. So towards the end, like I said, if so it was weekend drinking for the most part, every once in a while, there'd be a Sunday fun day or something like that with, Monday hangover built into it, which is technically still the weekend, I guess. But, and so towards the end, I was just more questioning, like, why is no one else, or are there people feeling like this and I just don't know it? Am I going to have to like keep doing this? Like, is this the feeling I'm going to have? Because I couldn't not binge drink. Like, I don't have this off switch. So I was thinking to myself, like, is this just how it's going to be? Like, you know, the rest of my life, I just like go hard all weekend and then regret it for days. And then that regret kind of wears off and then it's Friday again. So I didn't really ever have this like negative feeling towards myself till closer to the end when it would be really bad hangovers. And I don't know, you know, your body really changes after you have a kid. And I don't know if that added to it. My husband has said like that I have always kind of gotten drunk a lot faster than everybody else.
Thanks, honey.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know now. like, could you let me know? Like, I mean, I wouldn't have cared. Let's be honest. Like, cool, I'd be excited, right? Like, sweet. But like, I didn't drink less. It didn't make me drink less. It wasn't like a cheap date still. Like, I still like drank the whole bar. But yeah, so I definitely felt like a lot more like regretful and just like that self-loathing towards the end of like, why can't I be like everybody else kind of thing, and just have a couple. But then again, like that was like the Monday, you know, Tuesday, and those would wear off. Those feelings would wear off. It'd be okay for a couple of days and then it'd be Friday again. So
yeah. So why didn't you drink every day? Because as a daily drinker, I was always like, why isn't everybody doing this every day? Like when I see people in the community talking about like being a binge drinker and just doing it on the weekend, I'm like, how'd you not do it every day though?
I just didn't want to, I guess. Now, if somebody came and said, hey, let's go to happy hour on Tuesday, would I go on Tuesday? Probably. And would I have too much and then be hungover on Wednesday? Probably. But like, we weren't doing anything during the week. You know, I would work all day, and I guess I maybe would have, I don't even know if I would have anything like after work. I think I would just not do anything until Friday. It was just like, and it wasn't like I really want to drink, but I know I can't because it's Tuesday or Wednesday. You know, it was just like, it really wasn't on my radar until like the partying day, the weekend. And that's when as I got older, I mean, like when I was in college, it was like every single day, right? Because like that's what we did. School was like the last in college, like the actual part of college that you're going to college for was the last thing on my list. You know, it was like party, fun all day, all week, you know, and then school. But towards the end, I think it was this. And I think a lot of people feel this way too. Like you're putting on this, like your life is manageable. I'm managing to get through the week without drinking, and I'm fine with that, you know. But then, every time that I would drink, it would just be way too much. I mean, we're talking multiple bottles of wine and whatever else. Beer, sure, whatever I have, you know, in the house.
So did you try to quit before, or is this time like the only time that you said no more?
Yeah, this was the only time that I said no more. Even when I got my DWI when I was 25, so I'm 35 now. I think it was 24 or 25 when I got it. And I think I didn't drink for maybe like 3 months or something because I was scared I was like going to get in trouble because you're not supposed to go to the bar. Like it's a rule, like you can't go to the bar or something, like you could get in trouble, right? Like you go longer probation or I don't even know what it was, but I was just scared of that. Like, so I'd still drink at home. But then eventually I got back out to going out and it was like, whatever, you know, who cares? But yeah, there was never a time where I was like, you know, this is becoming a problem. I should try to like keep an eye on it or anything like that. Like never ever. My husband, even I would say more put those like moderation rules on me, you know, like, but not even like drink less. I mean, maybe he was like, hey, maybe you shouldn't drink so much, but okay, you know, whatever. It was more like if you're going to someone's house to drink or going out with friends, why don't you stay at their house instead of coming home and trying to talk to me at 3 a.m., you know? And so things would happen. Like one night he had to go get my purse from someone on the street that had found it because I set it down in the middle of the night, and he had to like take our baby who was a baby at the time, with him to go get it because I was passed out. I went to bed and he couldn't wake me up. I was just sleeping after coming home from the bar, and he had to go get the purse from the person that called me because my phone was in there. But even after that, he was like,
okay,
don't do that again. And it wasn't like maybe, yeah. Oh yeah, I won't do that again. Put that on my list of things I will try to not do again. But who knows? I could do that the next weekend. Like there was no like, once I started drinking, it wasn't like I had any control over what was going to happen. It was just like, I hope something really bad doesn't happen tonight, like let's cross our fingers. But you just never know sometimes. So I didn't know sometimes. So, but yeah, no, there was never a time. I mean, I had my son, I got pregnant, I didn't drink that whole time, and that was easy. That was easy to do. Cause I had a reason to not drink, it's almost like I didn't have a good enough reason until I was just, I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, it's very interesting because you hear people where they have like these big rock bottom moments, or they've tried and have been trying to, not drink for 6 years. And I'm like, just don't. Just read this book, which is good. There's a lot of different of people out there, so we can kind of, all tell our stories.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people believe that they need to have this big thing happen. And until that big thing happens, there's no reason for them to stop drinking. And you didn't have, you had negative consequences. That could have been somebody's big thing because everybody's different. But when you decided to stop, you didn't have a big thing. You just had one really bad night.
Yeah.
And then I know you made the decision a couple days later, but what was going through your head the next morning? Did you think about stopping, or were you just beating yourself up and all the self-loathing and dealing with, maybe your husband was mad at you or something?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I have my days correct. I know that the next day we went to a friend's house. So the night that I quit drinking or the last night I drank was, a night where I was home alone with my son, who was 18 months old. My husband had gone out and he had come home, and I was cleaning up a wine glass that was broken on the floor. And so there was glass everywhere, and I had knocked the baby gate over because I tripped and fell again. And so I woke up the next morning and I had bruises everywhere, which was not uncommon for me to have bruises, weird bruises. And yeah, I was just super, super hungover. I remember we went to a friend's house the next day. It was a Sunday, and we went to a friend's house and, grilled out or whatever. And before we went there, we stopped at the grocery store before or after. I can't remember which. Makes sense before. But, and I threw up in the grocery store bathroom because I was so hungover. I've never said that before. So congratulations. This is your first hearing of it. I puked in the grocery store bathroom because I was so hungover. And this was a typical thing. I mean, I wasn't usually puking in public places the next day because I wouldn't leave the house, but it was, a hangover where I would just get through the day, put on a face. Inside, my stomach is just I'm sick, and it was almost like those self-loathing thoughts came a little bit later. I think the hangover was always so bad physically, where sometimes I couldn't even drink water because I was so hungover. And so, because I just had drank way too much, and that's, I think, what it was. And so I think the physical hangover was the first day. And then, that first day after that, I didn't think oh, shoot, I shouldn't do that again, or I'm not doing that again. It was the Monday after when I had read someone else's story and thought, what? You can not drink? You can just stop, And so then I just immersed myself totally in all non-drinking things, books and podcasts and stuff. And then
why were you looking for her story?
So, now I can't remember if I had so it's from Scary Mommy. And I think that I subscribed to their newsletter, and I think it just so happened to be in the newsletter, or I could have been scrolling on Scary Mommy. I wasn't looking for that. The universe gave it to me at the right moment. And I really believe in stuff like that. That moment was the moment, and so I
feel
crazy.
When you're done It's just like really peaceful. Like, you're just done. And for me, like, I know it's a little different because I know my alternative is like, whoa. But I don't consider it like an option to drink. And that helped me out a lot in social situations. But I feel like for people that don't have like a traditional rock bottom, blow up their life kind of thing, and they know drinking is making them miserable, but it doesn't it's not ruining their lives. It's bad. It's not horrible. I feel like social situations are really hard because everybody wants you to drink and they're like, why aren't you drinking? Well, why don't you just have one? And stuff like that. And it's so tempting. So was that hard for you? Like in the beginning? I guess a good question to ask first is like, did you know it was forever when you first stopped?
Well, when I had reached out to the person that had wrote that blog that I read, and wrote her this whole long message about what had happened the 2 nights before and everything. And I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And she's like, you don't have to do it anymore, And there was no wavering really in the beginning. It was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I can't do it anymore. It's over, And I think for me too, that like accepting that was like so helpful. To just not go back and forth, like, well, okay, I want to try it out, and then maybe I'll go back. And it's like, no, like I have to stop because it's just going to keep going the way it's going if I don't stop. So
going out, like right in the beginning when you first stopped, like, did people pressure you?
Right.
Did you try to like convince yourself that you could drink?
So I did go to like a bridal shower that was during the day, and it was like Bloody Mary bridal, like that. There were Bloody Marys on the invitation. Like it was Bloody Mary bridal shower. Like that was what it was, and mimosas and stuff. And so I was so nervous. I hadn't told anybody yet. And I went to that, and it was fine. Nobody asked, nobody looked at me any certain way. It was, whatever. It wasn't like a night out in the town. It was just like that bridal shower. But that was scary. Like I was so scared, and I was in these different Facebook groups. And so I was like asking people for advice and things like that. And then I think before I really went out with my friends, I told them that I was done. And I remember sitting my 2 really close friends down in my house. Well, not sitting them down, but like, they came over and we were all hanging out, and I kind of just was like, I think they might have brought beer over or something. I don't know. That'd be typical. And I was like, I'm just not drinking anymore. I'm not going to drink anymore. Like super out of the blue. Like this is not normal Blair, like talk, that I was the one who always wanted to go out and drink. And they were both like, okay. And then one asked, are you going to go to AA? And I was like, no, I don't think so, because I had found that you didn't have to. I don't remember when this was, like how long into not drinking it was. It was pretty soon, I want to say. It was within the first month, I think. Oh yeah, so my friends came over and I told them. And then I think I remember sending like a mass Snapchat out where it was like a picture of like the trees, and then it was like 60 days without alcohol or something, like to a bunch of people. Like that was just like my vague like way of doing it without like being in front of a person saying it. So it's a good way to do it over text. Then you don't have to worry about like the questions. But if you do, you have your time to respond, Yeah. And then I think, people were kind of unsure if it was going to stick, I think. I got a lot of like, oh, so are you still not drinking? I'm like,
still not.
Yeah, never going to drink again. So still doing it, and that's natural. I think it's not like their fault. I mean, I would have been the same way. Yeah. I would have been like, I was always the one who was like, come on, drink. Like I was always that person. So I have since apologized to some people that don't drink. And it's funny because they didn't even, like, yeah, it's fine. I didn't even notice, and I felt like I was like the big pusher. But so no, I didn't go out then a lot, I just stayed away from it for a while. And my husband doesn't drink. So it was easy to not have it in the house and not be around it. It was easier as it went on. I was definitely socially like awkward in the beginning, like, cause you're so used to having that like at a wedding or just going out to eat and hanging out with friends, like in the nighttime, I was just talking to my husband the other day after the 4th of July. And I was like, I just feel like really comfortable, like having conversations. And I just remember in the beginning, I just was not. It was like are they thinking that I should be drinking? Or are they wondering why I'm not drinking? Do they think I'm pregnant? Like all this, like in your head, when really people probably aren't even paying attention to you. They're worried about themselves, you know? But yeah, I just kind of own it now. And it doesn't come up in the conversation. I mean, I put my life on the internet, so most people know like what I'm about, but
I did the same thing, like preemptively tell people before you even see them at all. Do you ever feel sad or like nostalgic or like you're missing out or do you ever have that desire like, I wish I was, normal?
Yeah. I mean, there might have been like a few glimpses of it, but I don't think like, not a lot. I think it's easier because I have a kid, so I'm busy with him, so I mean, it would be nice to like get a little buzz, but I know like that's not where it's going to stop. You know what I mean? Like there was never just like a little buzz. Like I like a good caffeine buzz, so I'm always like want that. But yeah, it'd be nice to get that a little bit, but that I knew that wasn't ever just itself. Like there was always more. So, but I mean, I still go and I hang out with my friends and I just really have appreciated like going to bed early and, waking up early and having a full day a lot more than missing out from what's going on from 9 to midnight, like I say like, oh yeah, I leave early. Like I don't even go anywhere to be honest. Like I don't even, if there were a thing that I needed to go to, I would go and leave early. But typically there's not a lot of those things going on.
What you said earlier really stood out to me about, I guess just appreciating what you're drinking was actually like, about how, it's never just a little buzz. It's always like, it's a whole thing. And, and like, you didn't have to stop, but you knew if you kept going, like it's going to be exactly the same or get worse. Like you just saw it for what it was. Like it's never going to be like a positive thing. It's always going to be the way that it is. And I think that's what's most important for drinkers, like trying to not drink, is just like really looking at what it is and like, has it ever been different? Has it been different lately? Like, do you really think there's a chance that it could be different? Like those kinds of things. Right. So I guess if someone is in your position and they are, going out and being a social drinker and just drinking like once or twice a week, and then they don't drink the other days, and then they don't drink in the morning, like all these excuses, like at least I don't, whatever. How can they get to that point where they see it for what it is and stop saying like, I'm not that bad, or at least I don't, whatever. Like what advice do you have for people to really like see what's going on?
Yeah. And I think that like, I'm not that bad thing is like, you're really comparing yourself to what you think is the worst drinker that could be, right? Like, so don't even think about what other people are doing. Just like think about, okay, but do I like the way this is going? Do I like how I'm feeling? Do I like, maybe you drink, Friday, Saturday, but do you really, is it good enough to keep going in that way when you're hungover or you're doing these things and you hate the next few days? For me, it was like every single weekend was the same thing. And it was just getting old. Like I was just sick of being hungover and sad about how I felt and whatever. So it's just, I think Laura McCowan had a quote, something like, maybe it's not bad enough to stop, but is it good enough to keep going? Because I had fun. Like I had fun times. It's not like I was this maniac person. Like, I mean, I probably blacked out most of the time, but like that was later at the night, like the beginning was fun. Like it's always fun to get like going out or like and you can still do those things. You can still get dressed up and go out. You can still have the good food. You just don't have to have alcohol that's going to cause you to have these other feelings that are negative and not what you want to keep going. And just try it. Like try it for a couple weeks, try it for a month and see if you like how you feel. If you end up going back after a month, okay, maybe you will, and maybe it will be back where it was, and then you'll say, okay, well, I can't just have one or two or whatever, or maybe you Maybe you're someone who can have one or two and you still don't like the way you feel the next day. Like, it doesn't matter how much you drink or if you black out every time.
So that's a really good point. You don't have to be someone that has no control ever.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of people that I see in groups that do have the ability to moderate, but they're still in there like, I moderate every single time and I still feel so guilty the next day. And you can have a problem.
Yeah.
And moderate, you can have a problem and like have 2 glasses of wine. You don't have to black out every single time and like be sloppy and drink every day or like all of these things that we think. It's just like, are you unhappy? Do you think there's potential for you to be happier if you don't do this thing? I think that's all it is. So you mentioned the blog, which I'm going to link. If you send me that article, I will link for everybody. And then I know there are a couple other of your favorite resources. So I'll link those too. But do you want to just tell us, like, if you're a newbie and you're watching, like, what should they go look up?
Yeah. My number one thing is always the book, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. That one, I think I started reading that right away, and that was like mind blowing. Like, there were so many things, like I didn't know anything about alcohol. I didn't know what it was doing to us. I didn't know, how big of a role the big alcohol companies play in like, tricking us to think that we need it, or just, anybody that's trying to sell it really. And so that book for sure. And then she's on Instagram as well. And she has a podcast, a YouTube channel, I think. And she does like alcohol experiments. So like a 30-day. So try that 30-day, alcohol-free experiment or something like that, I think it's called. And then I also love Laura McCowan. And she has a book called We Are the Luckiest. And so she's one of my favorite people. She used to have a podcast named Home Podcast, which you can still find. It's not going right now, but, so I always tell people to go on her website and like look up her old blogs. Cause she just wrote, like, her writing is exactly like how I felt. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, someone's words, these words that I'm reading are exactly how I feel, like, and so that just makes you feel less alone. But, those two are my big ones. And then just like the Instagram community, like the Instagram. So search hashtags on Instagram, alcohol-free, sober, sobriety, whatever, any of those kind of hashtags. And another trick to do is sometimes people will tag people in posts. So if you're seeing a post that you really like and you can see if other accounts are tagged in it, and then follow those accounts and just start following, start commenting. And even on Facebook, you can type in the group area, you can type in like sobriety and you can find all these different sobriety groups. Just start joining a bunch and talk in there. And if you like them, great. If you don't, get out of them. And
so I actually read This Naked Mind. I think it was 2 full years, maybe even longer, before I finally stopped drinking. And I was like, okay, I'm going to change my brain. I'm going to be brainwashed, but in a good way. And I went into it like for the wrong reasons. I was like, I'm not going to be a problem drinker anymore. I'm going to be able to moderate. Like, that's not what the book is about. And then, I was in Facebook groups for at least a full year, maybe longer, before I quit. So you don't have to be like, even on that journey. I was still trying to moderate, and I couldn't take the hint, I'm in all these sober groups reading a sober book, and I'm like, I'm going to moderate, But I think just exposure and connecting with people is key. Do you have any last minute advice or tips or anything we missed?
Yeah. Well, I always like to say, like, I just feel like I think we need alcohol so much more than we do. And I know that's hard for somebody who's drinking and whatnot to believe it's hard for you to believe a lot of this stuff until you're out of it a little bit and you can kind of see clear what's going on with yourself. But we just need it a lot. We don't need it. We just think we need it a lot more than we do. And I feel like we're just tricked our entire lives into thinking that we need it for everything. But it is, I will say too, it's not just like this magic, you quit drinking and it's magic and you're all like great again, you know, like I'm in therapy. I have to work on like getting enough sleep and drinking enough water and eating healthy, which I don't ever do, but, so I like chocolate. But like, you know, there's all these other things. It's not just that. Like you have to also figure out like who you are without it. And that was like a huge thing for me. So which is, it's fun, but it's like, it's also like, geez, well, what do I do now? You know? So that's another reminder. It's not just going to be like perfect.
Anything is better.
But, yeah.
So
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't remember when we connected, but it was a while ago. It was probably like very soon after you got on Instagram. And then you just started like appearing everywhere, like every day. And I was like, who is this woman? And then we started talking and now you're like my best sober friend, you know?
Yeah.
And so thank you for coming
right?
on.
Like it'd be just like every day, all
so
day.
I'm going to have links and it's going to appear in the future when people are watching this, your Instagram, but where can people find you? So your Instagram, your blog, all of that.
Yeah, so my Instagram is sobriety activist, and I'm also on Facebook. It's just Blair Sharp Writer, and that's just kind of where I share things that I'm writing, but which you can also find on my website, which is blairsharp.com. And that's where I just house like anything like this that I've done. I'll put this there, or things I've written. That's mainly, and then I do like a personal blog on the website from time to time.
Yeah, and this was fun, and I know it's going to help a lot of people who are just stuck.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so thank you again. I appreciate you. Yeah. And viewers, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.